Alright, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power, and before we get started with today's bodybuilding news, I'm sure many of you guys are aware of the fires in Australia right now and the national crisis that Australia is currently facing. More than 20 people so far have died as a result of these fires, and almost 500 million animals have been killed in New South Wales alone by one estimate. So in the beginning of this video, I wanted to encourage you guys to make a donation or just share this video and show your support for Australia. I'm going to put some links in the description box below to different facets of the wildfire relief efforts that are going on in Australia. If you guys want to make a $1 donation or whatever, I'm going to have links down there in the description box below. I personally made a donation to one of the wildlife rescue centers there in Australia, so I'm going to put the links to all these. Again, these will be in the description box below. I know that based on my YouTube analytics, I have a large viewership actually in Australia. So I want to let you guys know that we're thinking about you over here in the United States as well. Now, let's get to the bodybuilding news. So also from Australia, Josh Lenartowicz has posted his first prep update for the Arnold Classic 2020. And Josh is looking pretty sharp, to be honest with you guys, at about 2 months out now from the 2020 Arnold Classic. And again, this is the first update that we've seen from Josh in a while. He's looking for redemption after last year's Arnold Classic, where he had kind of a lackluster showing in Columbus, Ohio. His conditioning wasn't really as crisp as we're used to seeing it from Josh. That's really one of the things that he's known for, is coming in with that grainy, just super shredded conditioning is where his physique really seems to shine. And he didn't have that last year. Now, Josh ended up taking 8th place at the 2019 Arnold Classic, which isn't a terrible placing considering how strong that lineup was, but I'm sure he was expecting to do much better. I think a big reason why he didn't was that conditioning. But even though you can't see a whole lot in this photo right now, he is looking to be in pretty good shape at 2 months out. And we do know that Josh was recovering from that tumor in his skull. So we're wishing Josh the best, and I'm hoping to see a much better, more improved package this year at the 2020 Arnold Classic from Josh than we saw in 2019. Now, next up in the news, we have Phil Heath. Phil Heath has everybody talking with his recent post on Instagram, where he posted a picture of him hitting a bicep pose and captioned it, "Armed and Dangerous for 2020. Now, as you guys know, we have not seen Phil compete since the 2018 Mr. Olympia. And I think a lot of people right now are missing a physique the caliber of Phil Heath's on the Olympia stage, or on any stage for that matter. So a lot of people were sending this picture to me with the feeling that he was alluding to the fact that he might be competing in 2020, and he's gearing up for competition in 2020, possibly the 2020 Mr. Olympia. My opinion is, I can't see Phil just jumping back into the Olympia. My personal feeling is that Phil is going to do Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's show, Athleticon, in Atlanta, Georgia, which is shortly after the Mr. Olympia in October. So personally, I don't think that Phil is done competing. I do not think that Phil is retired. I think he might be retired from competing at the Olympia after what happened in 2018. But I think we haven't seen the last of Phil Heath on a pro bodybuilding stage. I think we're going to see him at Athleticon. And the reason why I say that is that we know that Phil and The Rock have some sort of relationship. They're friends to some capacity. They've worked together in some capacity. And I think for The Rock's first ever Athleticon, his first IFBB Pro show, he's going to want it to be big. And he's going to want big names in that show. He's not going to want this to be a lackluster lineup. He wants people to talk about this. And I think nothing is going to drum up more conversation than the return of Phil Heath. And by the time October rolls around, Phil will have taken a 2-year hiatus from bodybuilding. So for him to come back after 2 years, I think a lot of people are going to be excited to see that. I think what we're going to find is Phil Heath is no longer going to be considered the villain in bodybuilding. And I think a lot of people are going to be very excited to see Phil grace a professional bodybuilding stage yet again. And I think with everything going on lately, Sean Roden wasn't able to compete at the 2019 Mr. Olympia. Big Ramy didn't qualify for the 2019 Mr. Olympia. And now you have the possibility of Hadi Choppan maybe not being at the 2020 Mr. Olympia. I think we need some big names and some excitement in bodybuilding. I think Phil Heath would bring that if he competed in Athleticon 2020. And just another quick note on the Hadi Choppan situation and whether or not we're going to see him even be able to compete at the 2020 Mr. Olympia with the current strains in the relations between the U.S. and Iran pretty much at the worst that they've been in years. Some new reports came out this weekend of Iranian Americans actually being detained at the Canadian border between the U.S. and Canada and questioned for hours long about their political beliefs and why they're coming to the country and all these different things. seemingly just on the basis that they are Iranian. And again, these are people with green cards, people that are actually American citizens, just being detained, apparently, supposedly because of the fact they're Iranian. So this really does not make the situation look very hopeful for seeing Hadi Choppan compete at the 2020 Mr. Olympia and being able to get that visa again. But hopefully he is going to be able to compete, and we will see him at the 2020 Mr. Olympia, because I think without Hadi, 2020 Olympia is looking kind of vague. It's not really looking extremely exciting from the standpoint of what the lineup is looking like at this point. Now, next up in the news, also pertaining to Arnold Classic prep, you've got Patrick Moore, who is one of my personal favorites in this lineup for the 2020 Arnold Classic. I think he's going to be one of the most dangerous bodybuilders in that lineup as far as a threat to the top 6, possibly even the top 3. Now, Patrick has posted his update for the Arnold Classic at 9 weeks out with the caption, it's a training video, and it has the caption, after my Mr. Olympia showing, feedback was more size, same condition. Pretty happy to say at this point, 9 weeks out from the Arnold Classic, I'm acing my homework. No matter how good you are or even think you are, there's always room to learn and get better, especially in this sport. You either get better or get bitter. Get bitter or get better. Take the good with the bad and use it. So Patrick appears to be doing exactly what he needs to do. I think one of the strongest points in his physique at the 2020 Olympia was his conditioning. In addition to that conditioning, I think the other strong point was really the size of his waist. In particular, having one of the smallest waists on stage, making him have one of the better V-tapers on stage. So it seems like he knows what he's doing based on this caption. He wants to put on size, but he doesn't want to sacrifice conditioning, which is exactly what we want to see from a guy like Patrick Moore. He does need to put on a little bit of size, but we don't want to see him get too big to the point where he, ruins his physique or ruins those classic lines that he has. Now, in addition to this video, Patrick also posted a side-by-side front double bicep for his prep for the Arnold Classic. The photo on the right being roughly 60 days out from the 2020 Arnold Classic. Still keeping those lines, as you can see, still has that crazy small waist, that crazy V-taper, and his arms, as always, look insane. So again, Patrick is my pick for the surprise of the show. I think Patrick is going to be one of the highest placers in the 2020 Arnold Classic, and I think he's going to crack that top 6 and maybe knock some guys out of that top 6 that you wouldn't otherwise expect him to be. So be on the lookout for Patrick in 2020. I think he's going to be one of the most dangerous and underrated bodybuilders going into the 2020 season. Now, next up in the news, this channel is called Nick Strength and Power, so let's get to some powerlifting news here and talk about what I think was an incredibly impressive feat of strength over this past weekend. The powerlifter Johnny Harris, and also a Redcon 1 athlete, coincidentally, he actually bench pressed 680 pounds at a body weight of 290 pounds, which is extremely impressive. Now, the current bench press world record is 739.6 pounds, set by Julius Maddox just a couple months ago, actually. And he weighed significantly more than Johnny Harris. And I thought the impressive thing about this bench press, actually, was that it was done with one spotter. Usually something this dangerous and something this heavy is done with 2 side spotters. But he crushed this weight with just 1 back spotter, which I thought was a little bit risky, a little bit crazy, but very impressive nonetheless. So shout out to Johnny Harris for this incredible bench press to start out 2020. Now, finally in the news, it's a new year, so that means it's a new readiness trial with Redcon 1. So that's their transformation contest. They're giving away $75,000 to the best transformations in this competition. You have until January 12th to enter this transformation and send in your before pictures. I'm going to go ahead and roll the video of them talking about all the rules. I'm going to be doing my own little cut starting yesterday, actually, and see how much I can transform my own physique in the next 9 weeks. I hope you guys join me, whether or not you enter this competition or you just want to start off 2020 with a transformation. Let's do it together. Without further ado, here is the video.
Hey guys, I just want to remind you, you have a couple days left to sign up for the Redcon 1 readiness trials. Now, this is not a bodybuilding competition. This is a transformation challenge with $75,000 on the line. First place will get $50,000. And if you don't win that $50,000, there will be several other cash prizes for runner-up positions or best-in-class transformation. So definitely a lot of incentive to get your transformation started, to get the year started right, to get the decade started right. And Redcon 1 will be with you every step of the way. You'll be receiving tips from Redcon 1 athletes, including myself. There'll be a dedicated Facebook group for motivation and to hold yourself accountable, and a Redcon 1 frontline rep We'll be there if you need help with your diet, with your supplements, with anything to help with your transformation. So if you're interested, head to the link in my bio or go to readinesstrials.com.